Hey there, citizens, Pally here, and welcome back, and we are finally sitting down. We're talking all the different loadouts for the Vanguard series. This will work for the Warden, Harbinger, Hoplite, and Sentinel. We're going to talk about the main weapons, and when I say mains, I mean the size 4s. Secondaries are going to be the size 2s, and I did not do ungimbal. I did not do the size 5s. I did not remove the gimbal. In my opinion, right now, with how the game is, with the gimbal assist, the size, it's just not worth it for 95% of players. If you're maybe that top 5% where you're really accurate with your shots and everything, the size 5s might be in there for you, but I think for most people it isn't. So we're going to be talking primaries, size 4s, secondaries, the size 2s. We're also ignoring one of the primaries, and that is there's a ballistic, not a ballistic, but a distortion scattergun. Essentially a shotgun distortion cannon for the front nose for the size 4s. With where the size 4s are right now, or I'm sorry, not with where they are, with where the distortion cannons are right now, I just didn't think it was viable to give up what is going to be, for the most part, your primary damage dealer and put that into a essentially electronic warfare weapon. So yeah, that's how we're going to run down this. We're also going to do it in alphabetical order. So the first set you're going to see, it's going to be the top alphabetical order for the size 4s and the top alphabetical order for the size 2s. We'll show those off, and then we'll go through it. And at the end, I'll talk about some combos and everything. If you want to see this in a bit more of an easy way to go across it, I will link to my little spreadsheet that I have down in the description below. There's a new tab there called Vanguard Loadouts that you can go into, and you can see all the different stuff, where you can get them, and so on. Okay, that out of the way, we're going to be starting off with, on our size 4s, the Attrition 4, and we're going to also have the ATVS Distortion repeaters for the size 2s. The Attrition 4 is, quite frankly, one of the better weapons in the size 4 loadouts that we can go to. It's either number 2 or number 3 for me personally as to what I'll use. The only real downside to the Attrition 4, and it's not really a downside of the weapon itself, it's the fact that it's an expensive weapon and doesn't come pre-loaded onto too many ships. It does come actually on the Vanguard Sentinel. In fact, this entire loadout just happened to alphabetically fall in order, where this is the actual Sentinel loadout. If you own a Vanguard Sentinel, you're going to be running an Attrition 4 and an ATVS Distortion repeaters. When you first pull the ship out of the hangar, that's the default loadout on it. And it works well enough. I do think this loadout, though, is carried by that Attrition 4. But, like I said, other than the... Compared to, we're going to compare this gun a bit to the Rhino repeater later on. It seems to give up rate of fire for slightly more distance and potentially a little more damage from its shot. So it's kind of, do you want to put more projectiles into the air, or do we want to put a few fewer? Really though, like I said, the downside to this is the cost of the weapon. So if you don't have if you don't have a Sentinel, I think that's the only ship it comes on by default. Perhaps some of the one of the freelancer variants might have it on the side guns, but if you don't have that, it's far more expensive to buy from the shops than the Rhino repeater is, and that's kind of why I lean that way. But other than that, it's very solid. As for the secondaries, the Distortion repeater, their rate of fire is pretty good, and they do seem to have a fairly good range. I want to say they can start engaging around 2.2 kilometers out, which is not bad for size 2s. But like I said a moment ago, the distortion weapons right now just are not in a very good state. That is up for change on the not the PTU, but 3.9 or 4.0. One of those is supposed to have a rework of the distortion weapons. I know it's in there, I just don't remember where it is on the roadmap. So maybe we'll revisit this some later on, but for now, distortion weapons are kind of they're just not that good overall. Also, I'm sure you're noticing there's a really rough flash. This one could cause seizures. Actually, I probably should have put a seizure warning before I put it in there. While you're firing this, it really puts this bright blue strobe light effect on your front glass, which is kind of distracting, can make aiming a little bit hard. Okay, next up, for our size 4s, our primary weapons, we're jumping over to the C788 Ballistic Autocannon, which is the default nose gun for the Harbinger. We're also jumping over to the BRVS Ballistic repeaters, which is the default size 2s for the Hoplite. So this is a good loadout overall, actually, for if you're going out after one target. You have just that one particular target. It's maybe a heavier target, say that like a hammerhead or something, and you're going to go after that. This loadout can work really well. This C788 Ballistic Autocannon hits very hard. Now it does have a lower rate of fire, but that lower rate of fire isn't necessarily a handicap overall, because it does mean that although its ammo is limited, you're not going to burn through its ammo very quick. You can just kind of use it as you will need be, and that rate of fire will keep you from running out, and when it does hit, your target's going to notice it. The BRVSs are sort of the same, but without the ammo type thing. They fire fairly fast, they're fairly robust, and when they do hit, especially all 4 of them hitting, your target's going to take notice. They're a good damage dealer overall for your size 2s. However, they will burn through ammo very quickly, to the point where 2-3 medium-sized targets, we're talking like Connie class targets, you're going to be out of ammo on those nose guns. And that's kind of the one real big hang-up for them. Unless you like making constant runs to R&R stops to rearm, or you're an arena commander, yeah, that's kind of the downside of them. All in all, though, they're not bad. They'll get the job done, and yeah, that's kind of where they sit. For our number 3s, we have the CF447 Rhino laser repeater, and I'm pairing that up with the CVSA Ballistic cannon. So the Rhino repeater, for my money, this is the go-to primary weapon right now for the Vanguard warriors for your size 4. It doesn't excel in any one area. You know, its damage isn't amazing, its range isn't great, but it's a relatively common weapon, so you can get it fairly easily. It is sold in center mass if you need to go out and get it, but it's, as size 4s go, it's one of the cheaper ones. But it's just tried and true and reliable and doesn't have any major negative effects. You can put a lot of projectiles out, so you're going to saturate the target area, so even if you're just coming through and you catch something in a slight turn, you're going to probably get at least a few rounds on it. The range is okay, right around 2,000 meters out, so you get a pretty good range on it, if not great range, but really it's got good rate of fire, okay range, and it doesn't really overheat, so you can just spew a lot of lasers over time, and it's going to work pretty well. Now, the CVSA Ballistic cannons, this is actually part of the Harbinger default nose guns. This is the Harbinger default number 2s. These, similar to the last set we did, they're hard-hitting. They have a lower rate of fire, though, than the previous ones, than the BRVSs. And that lower rate of fire does mean, similar to the C78 Ballistic Autocannon, you don't burn through the ammo nearly as quickly. And when it does hit, again, they're going to really notice it. Very usable, though they do come, obviously, although you don't burn through ammo super fast, you will go through it eventually. Something to note, this loadout, you might see it towards the end. The default Harbinger loadout, which is the C78 Ballistic Autocannon plus these guys here, they have the exact same projectile speed for everything I've tested, so there's always 1 pip to aim at, and that's very handy. In fact, the Harbinger default loadout in general is a good one for Arena Commander, or similar to what I was saying before, if you have that one target you need to go after, that you need to kill, it's a good loadout for that. Really good DPS, just doesn't have that endurance for, say, you want to be out running around for 2-3 hours without going and rearming your ship. They kind of run into issues there. Okay, moving on. Our number 4s in our alphabetical order, M6A laser autocannons, and these are going to be paired with the EVSD distortion cannons. So, the M6A is, for me, an easy pass. It just has a low rate of fire, it overheats fairly quickly, though it does hit hard. That is the one thing I will say. If you do have to run with the M6A, hold your fire until you feel you have a really good shot, and it's going to tear through any smaller ship very quickly. It's just that rate of fire, though, I find it to be annoying. If you're, say, hunting large targets, you know you're doing the 10,000 or even 8,000 bounties, so you're going to be constantly going up against Connies and hammerheads and caterpillars, well, then you could maybe consider this, because, like I said, it does hit hard, so you know your shots will be on target a little more effectively against those larger ships. It's something to consider. Now, the EVSD distortion cannons that are paired with it. So first of all, there's a bug with these. They overheat the first time out all the time. You'll take them out, you'll fire off 3 to 4 shots, and they're going to overheat, and this happens in both Arena Commander and the Persistent Universe. And once they overheat, though, they don't come back on. It's some type of bug with them. You'll continue to right click or left click depending on which key you have them mapped to, and nothing will happen. The workaround is to go into the control panel, turn them off, power them back on, and then they'll behave like they should. And when they are behaving like they should, they're reasonably good distortion cannons. They do pack quite a wallop, and they don't overheat all that quickly, and they have very good range. You'll see a little bit of this towards the end of this little clip here. I'll show you some of it approaching a... it's only in Aurora, but one salvo of this completely takes the shields off of the Aurora. And you can fire probably 20 to 30 projectiles before they'll overheat outside of that initial bug when you first power it on, and you can't, it acts up. I don't know. And it's been that way for 2 or 3 patches now between the PTU and the live version. So there's something going on there. But similar to what I was saying at the beginning of the video, distortion cannons, while they're okay as your secondary guns for something to take down shields and maybe overload the electronics and stuff, I would prefer a raw damage dealer over distortion cannons. If I had to choose between the two and the bug didn't exist, I would take these over the ATVS. I like the higher rate of fire and the longer, they don't have the higher rate of fire, this is the lower rate of fire ones. I would still prefer these over the other ones. It was more, they seemed to travel faster. I think that was what it was. So they felt easier to land on target. Okay, we're coming around on the end there. Number 5, the Omnisky XII, so 12 laser cannon paired with the GVSR laser repeater. So the Omnisky is a lot like the M6A, but slightly better. Whereas the M6A feels like it fires a projectile every 2.5 seconds, this fires one about every 1.5 seconds. So you do almost cut the rate of fire or increase the rate of fire by 50%, somewhere in there. And that does make it a little more forgiving. You can definitely tell that it doesn't seem to hit quite as hard per projectile to balance it out, but that rate of fire I find to more than make up for the loss of damage output. While definitely not a weapon I'm going to seek out to use, if it's one that you have on a different ship and you want to just swap it over, it will get the job done. It's okay overall. It's decent. The GVSR laser repeaters though, the size 2s, these are the best of the best in my opinion. They have the rate of fire similar to that of the BRVS ballistic repeaters, which are the high rate of fire ones. They have the rate of fire like that, but it's lasers, so you don't have to worry about dealing with the ammo concerns. Obviously their damage is less than the ballistics, it's significantly less, but they're relatively heat efficient. You can go and hold down the trigger for 30 to 45 seconds before they're going to overheat. You let go, 5 seconds later you can go again for 30 to 45 seconds, and they're going to get the job done. These are my go-tos. These are the ones where whenever there's a reset, the first thing I do is I farm up about 25,000 credits. I'm going to go buy these. I'm going to throw these with a Rhino repeater on, and that's going to be the loadout I run pretty much 90% of the time overall. So yeah, the GVRS's big thumbs up. They're my favorite out of everything. The last one's actually going to be the default Vanguard loadout, Vanguard Warden loadout. So we got the Revenant Ballistic Gatling with the MVSA laser autocannons. We'll skip over this one fairly quick, as you know, if you've seen anything with the Vanguard Wardens, you know this loadout, it's tried and true. The Ballistic Gatling, this is one that they've adjusted the ammo on a bunch, so although it does spew a lot of lead, it goes through a lot of ammo, you also have a fairly large ammo reserve, and the thing doesn't really overheat, so you can just spray and pray all over the place. The individual projectiles don't do all that much damage as you would expect, you know. Actually, I kind of would expect it to do a little bit more, because it seems like it's supposed to be like a 50 caliber machine gun. It feels a little light on the damage department overall, but the good thing is with that rate of fire and everything, you will get a fair number of projectiles on target, especially on the larger targets. The MVSAs, they overheat a lot. They've been retuned as of the initial 3.6, I think they retuned them. So they used to overheat after 6 or 8 salvos. Now you can get a bit more out of them. You can get 2 to 3 times that, somewhere in the 20 to 30 salvo range before they overheat. But they do lack rate of fire, and you know, while they do hit hard, give me the previous laser repeaters, the higher rate of fire ones, where I'm just going to get more rounds on targets. Also, just a quick note right now, if you don't have a Wardent, the MVSA laser autocannons, the ones we're looking at right here, for some reason they're not in any of the shops. All of these other ones, you can buy them. You can find most of them are in center mass. In fact, all of them are in center mass. But except for the MVSAs, I've not found them. I've checked Levski. I've checked all of the landing zones with weapons. There seems to be they screwed up in putting these into the database to resell them. So for now, if you want the MVSA laser autocannons, you only get them with the Warden. I'm sure this will be corrected. It's probably just a bug that they'll sort out. Okay, so that's all of them with the exception of that ballistic, not ballistic, distortion scattergun we're not playing with overall. As I said, the go-to combo for me is going to be the number 3 and the number 3 and 5. So the Rhino laser repeater combined with the GVSR laser repeaters, just laser vomit. You just put out tons of lasers. While their damage per projectile is fairly low, probably one of the lowest ones out of all this overall loadout, they're heat efficient. You don't have to worry about ammo. Just makes it a reliable use all of the time. I've even taken out hammerheads with this. Now it is a test of patience. You don't have that massive burst like, say, the Harbinger default loadout does. The Harbinger will go through a hammerhead faster than this loadout would, which would be the C788 and the CVSA ballistic cannons. But after that hammerhead dies, the Harbinger's got to go get ammo. While it'll take me an extra couple of minutes to do it with this loadout if I don't want to use missiles, I still find it to be overall the best loadout. And the pips, one of the things I did look for in testing was I wanted pips that kind of lined up nicely together. And while they're not perfect with this loadout, they are fairly usable, that you can generally, if you aim at the lead pip, the further out one, which is the one for the secondaries, the Rhino repeater is still close enough that its rounds will land on target also. So it's usable. Like I said, the Harbinger default loadout, it's another good one. If you're only hunting one target, that's a good way to go. Let's see, 2 and 3, which would be the Harbinger loadout, but swap out the lower rate of fire for the higher rate of fire ballistic autocannons. That one works well also. You do diverge your pips a little bit, so it's a little bit harder to aim, but you do put out a lot more lead through your secondaries. You will burn through ammo a lot faster. Let's see, any other ones really worth mentioning? If you're stuck with the M6A, I would look at using it with the BRVS ballistic repeaters. This is going to sound like an odd combination, but what does work there is they are very close to 1 pip, which makes it just very easy to aim. So while you still are going to run out of ballistic repeater ammo fairly quick, you should be fairly accurate with that ammo and do a lot of damage. So that's not a bad one if you are stuck with the M6A, which I am not a fan of. Other than that, the Ballistic Revenant, if you have that guy, you can pair that with either of the GVSR laser repeaters. It also pairs fairly well with the BRVS ballistic repeaters. You're gonna go through ammo like mad, but it's kind of fun. It's almost like taking a Super Hornet or something and just putting as many miniguns on it as you can. There's just ammo everywhere. So while not efficient, it is fun. So there we go, guys. That's all the different loadouts. Now there's a few other combos you might want to look into and stuff, but that'll give you a general idea of where to start with. Like I said, there is a link to my PDF sheet that has all this broken out for you if you want to see it down in the description. I generally don't ask this, but if you did find this video useful or helpful, please share it. This one did take a lot of legwork. I did 36 different loadout tests to try and see what worked really well. So there was a lot of time put into making this video come together. So like I said, if you did find it helpful, please share it. And until next time, this has been Paler. Thanks for watching.